Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again, midweek Wednesday, soon to be the one day a week that I post a video. I'm looking forward to that starting next week, and we got a couple things to talk about before then. First off, yesterday I paid a visit to Harbor Freight. Now, I don't get a chance to go to Harbor Freight that often, but I have to tell you, I've always loved that store. I'm a big fan of Harbor Freight. I know some people aren't. In fact, years ago, we used to call it Horrible Freight because some of the stuff they had wasn't of the highest quality. However, I always loved the store. It's clean, well lit. The aisles are wide, and the products are stocked, and they're professional. It is a super well-run business, and I go to the one in Connecticut. And I went there, like I said yesterday, walked in there. I picked up a couple things, and I want to show you what I picked. I'm really excited about these items I picked up. I hope you're going to enjoy it. Let's check it out. Now, before we get started in showing you what I picked up, I'd like to talk quickly about the Humble rubber band. I've been a fan of the rubber bands since I'm a kid. Rubber bands are an amazing invention. If you see how they're made, it's a terrific process. There's actually charts that show different sizes of rubber bands and what they're called. And I really got into it when I was flying model aircraft, model airplanes back in the late 70s. And we used to use these number 64 rubber bands to hold the wings onto the fuselage. That's how they used to be held on back in the day. And some used bolts, but these were forgiving. If you should land and hit the wing, these would give a little bit. So I would use a lot of these, and what happens is they would get fuel soaked with the model airplane fuel, and they would lose their elasticity, or they get stretched out, and we'd have to, so we were always buying rubber bands. However, I don't know what happened over the years. Rubber bands have gotten horrible in their quality. I mean, I used to have rubber bands for years. In fact, I have on my hair clippers upstairs, I have a rubber band that's been on that box for over 20 years and is still as pliable as the day I put it on. So they can make them to last, but there must be a chemical in here that makes these inoperable after a short period of time. Especially, I used to like to hang these on my turn signal my turn signal knob in the car. I always used to have a rubber whatever, but after a week or two with the sunlight, the UVs, look what happens to the rubber bands now have become junk. I don't know what it is. You can't have them that long. Certain brands last longer than others, but look at this. I used to buy Allied. They were made in USA or whatever, but I don't know what they're doing or where they're getting, or if they're not rubber anymore. They could be some, but we very rarely do you get a rubber band that holds its elasticity anymore, and you could feel it. You can't trust them, and it bothers me a lot. So whenever I see a different style of rubber band, now this was again Harbor Freight, right? I got these color coded by size. They're a different type of rubber band. Let me see, where made in China. Who knows? You never know until you try them if you're going to get a good batch or a bad batch. So I said I'm going to give these a shot. Now, to store rubber bands, it's always good. Obviously, keep them out of UV. UV really destroys rubber bands. But put them in an airtight container, either a jar, or I used to put them in a Ziploc bag. And then sometimes I would put talc in there to help, or silicone. I would spray silicone spray. Nothing helps. If the rubber band is garbage, it's going to be garbage. So I bought these just to open. Let me see what they're like. Okay, now I don't have high hopes for these because, again, where they're made, but sometimes you never know, right? So first of all, elasticity-wise, they don't have as much elasticity as the rubber bands that we're used to, like these. These maybe will have like a 60-70% stretch, where these might only have a 30 or 40% stretch. But for certain things, that might be all you need. The problem is, like I said, when you don't have that much stretch, you need more sizes, and that's probably why they have so many sizes. So if anybody out there has a good source of high quality, no nonsense rubber bands, let us know in the comments so we can all dive in on that. They do have a huge sale going on now, right around this date. So I tried to look through the sales catalog, but I did need one of these. This is a 6-inch wire wheel, and the brass coated. Again, it's steel, but brass coated. These I find to be really a good combination. The red ones, the one with the red inside, is a much harder wire brush. It'll last forever, but it doesn't do a great job. You want something that's not too soft but not too hard. This one I find to be really good in the shop. This Warrior 6-inch brass coated wire wheel. I tend to have good luck with these. Next up, step drills. I think these were like half price or something. They were really inexpensive. I have found, obviously, the more you spend, the better the bit usually. And the high-speed steel ones that they sell in machine shops are fantastic. However, these inexpensive ones do work. I find they really do work, and they're especially for material like plexiglass, things like that. And if you haven't used step drills, I did a video on step drills. They're one of the best things you can have in your shop. And when you get them at 50% off, and just keep, pick up a couple. Next up, these were, again, inexpensive. I told you I'm a real fan of the vinyl gloves compared to, I don't know if any of you guys find that, but a lot of times if you're doing a dirty job, you're not going to be wearing the glove all day. You just need something real quick. Or if I'm spray painting something, I put this on. The vinyl gloves are so comfortable, and they were on sale. And you don't usually find them on sale. These were hard to get. Remember in COVID, these things were all sold out, so... Anyway, they were highly reduced with the coupon or this week. Okay, for those of you we all love screwdrivers, and a lot of times we have use for a large screwdriver, not just for the wide tip, but for the length and the strength. How many times if you're trying to put an alternator on, you can't fit a pry bar in there or a crow. So you want something long and thin that you could kind of get it up and tension the belt, whatever it is. There's 100 uses for these things. We all have them in the shop. These are some of the ones I've done over a while. This one here is a leather handle. Now, I prefer a square shank, but I've told you before on the channel, the problem with some of the square shanks is they line up with the triangle on top. Okay, like this. So in other words, if you're going to pry something, this corner is going to dig in. Same here. If I wanted to pry something with this corner is going to dig into whatever I'm prying. So it's hard to find the square shank screwdrivers that have the blade parallel with the square, if you know what I mean. I'll show you in a minute. So, but these are just a few examples, and we all have them. Some of these are called demolition screwdrivers when they have like a steel cap at the end that you can bang them on, whatnot. Use them for demolition. I like them. I always look for them. They're hard to find, but when you find a nice one, you pick them up, right? Well, I walk into Harbor Freight, and from across the aisle, what do I see? This thing was calling my name. First of all, I love this color handle, right? And oh my goodness, look at this. I had to, and they were not, I don't think these were on sale, but they were only $6.99 or right? $6 or $7.99. I don't even know what they were, but they were cheap, less than $4 a piece, and a lifetime warranty. And let me tell you, Harbor Freight stands by their lifetime warranty, even if you don't have the receipt, because when you check out, you put your phone number in. So when you come to warranty something, which very rarely I do, but they get your phone number and there it is. It shows that you bought the item. That's the way every store should do it. You can see here it's a Pittsburgh 2-piece 16-inch go-through screwdriver set, and the item number is 65772. Look at this. Let me take them out and show you why I fell in love with these things. Now let's take a look at these from the tip up. First of all, the grind is very acceptable. It's a nice grind. It's not wonky. It's got a nice square tip on there. It's got the square shank with the flat on the bottom. So if you have to pry something, you're not digging that corner in. Next off, the corners are all relieved. Look at that. This is smooth as silk and just beautiful, right? So I fell in love with that. Then, of course, look at the handle here. You see it's got the cap. You could see right through it that shaft goes right up to the cap, which is kind of like almost like threaded in. And yeah, and it's a nice feel to it, a good feeling. I can tell you, I'm very excited about these. Same thing with this one here. This is the Phillips. Take a look at this. Look at that grind. That's a very nice grind, isn't it? I mean, very rarely do we come across Phillips that have that big of a head on it, but still, again, that shaft with the smooth edges, that's what I'm looking for, not those sharp, cheap ones. Well worth the money. If you're near Harbor Freight, you check them out. I think you're going to like these. By the way, they're also marked chrome vanadium. Now, I take that with a grain of salt because anybody could engrave that, but it feels like quality. Next up, look what I found in the poor man's flea market. That's right, Michael Graves design, stainless steel. Now here we have Asian markets that you can buy these for a couple dollars, right? Stainless steel pots or whatever, and they're not so thick. Around here, the edges are, and it's a well-made, I don't know what, salad pot, whatever you would use it for. So when I found this, I was ecstatic because what I wanted to do, we were talking about these lights, and remember I was saying about these? Now the only thing I don't like about these is the cheap aluminum, you could see here, the cheap aluminum reflectors. But you can make your own if you come across or buy one of these stainless steel ones. The only thing you have to do is punch a hole in, and then you would have to come up with a socket. Now there are different types of sockets you could use. There are so many available. But this here is a good socket for that. And it has a little collar. So basically what you'd have to do, remember this is that lamp pipe threading, 1/8 over here. And what you would do is you drill a hole, push this in, screw this on the other side, run your cable, and Bob's your uncle. Now, many times I actually do projects because I want to use certain tools I have. I don't know what that is, but this is a perfect opportunity to use these beautiful Greenlee knockout punches. Now, I wish I could say I had a lot of experience using these. I don't. I only used them a couple times, but that's why I bought them. I bought these. First of all, anything that comes in a leather case like this is awesome. Okay, so that's number one. So the first thing you want to do is take a look at what these are. Now, a knockout punch, how they work is you drill a small hole. Let me get one that's set up here. You drill a hole big enough for this bolt to pass through, whatever it is for the punch, okay? And once that passes through the hole of the sheet metal, okay, or in this case, our bowl, pass that through, you put this on top like this, pass this through, and then this goes on the bottom. And then when you screw this, you give this a turn, this will punch a super clean hole in that. What do you say we give it a shot? I have a set here for this. These are obviously too big for that socket. Let's hope we get something close enough that we can use this cool tool. Okay, luckily I think we have a size that's gonna do us justice, and that's this one here. You see this? And if we hold it up here, it should make a size that's good for that, right? Let's give it a shot. So we have this, we have the backing collar, which is this piece here, and then we have this screw, this big screw. So now we have to drill this size hole. It doesn't matter if it's ragged, you can use whatever drill you have. Now, anytime you're drilling in sheet metal, you do not want to use a twist drill. It'll do nothing but give you a problem. A step drill is what you want to use. You ever do something that makes you feel like a little kid when you do this and you go, okay. Now, drilling sheet metal is a perfect use for the step drill because it won't grab the material. Okay, now you see what a nice hole that does, right? That leaves such a nice, smooth hole, a step drill. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this, okay, and we're going to put this in here. But we have to have the backing plate on first, and then we will bring this like this and screw this down until this pulls through. Now remember what I told you, anytime you're going to use threads for any kind of stress, you always put a drop of lube on the threads so they don't gall up on you, okay? So we're going to put this here, and this, you see it's got two flots. You could hold it with a wrench as you turn this. And let's get that done. Okay, I'm holding this here with just a vice grip on the bottom here, and I'm just going to twist this until it pierces through. Now, this part of the is not that thick of a metal. I'm sure it does much thicker, but you can see here we're just tightening this up and it's going to pierce its way through. I already lubricated the threads. It would be better with a couple sockets, but there we go. I could feel it punching through, and a little bit more. Okay, I felt it punch. Now these threads are really fine, so it takes a while. Here we go. Let's take a look at what we got. Here we go. Look at that. Now, let's see. Look at that. You couldn't ask for a better fit than that, right? Okay, now wiring up your socket couldn't be easier. Here's what you do to open these sockets up. They just unscrew like this here. And here is your socket. And there's hot here, goes to the brass colored screw. Neutral goes here. And then you run that wire through here. Okay, place this into the cap like this and put this back on. That's it. That's all you have to do. Now your wire is going to be coming out here, or if you're going to use your lamp pipe, that gets screwed in here, and this little screw gets tightened down so that this doesn't spin off there. And this is a little a half nut, more or less, that you could run the wire out if you wanted to run more lamp pipe, or you could run it all the way through. There's so many options you have. But these are great. And we're calling this project done. You can see what we did here. Now, to mount it, there's a lot of different ways you can mount it. This is the way I chose, because see, in my attic, I have a lot of parallel pipes that run up and across. So, and I wanted to put this above my bench here. So all you have to do is just slip it in one pipe and it'll hold it up there like that. And then the wire could go to your socket here. Let me show you how bright it is with... now this is an 8-watt bulb LED, 60-watt equivalent, and you can see here the reflective capability of the stainless compared to the aluminum. It's just a much brighter, you know, much more reflective surface. So this is a really good project, very strong. You don't have to worry, and there's a lot of ways you can mount it. You can put handles on here. You can do whatever you want. That one's in the can. Okay, so in closing, another fun day in the shop. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We will see you again next Wednesday, same time. I hope you have a great week. Take care now. Bye-bye.